Today we're going to be addressing the topic of AI Ops, what it is, a little bit of industry background, and specifically how Evanios fits into the category. Our presenters for today are Andy Ray and Todd Hatton. My name is Kai. I'll be moderating, so I'll join you again at the end of the session. And now I'll turn it to Andy to introduce.
I'm just going to jump right into it. So I'm a partner and co-founder with Evanios. Todd's a senior architect. So I'm going to walk you through kind of how we see AI Ops, where we feel we fit with AI Ops, what's the alignment, and then Todd's going to go a little deeper as far as a technology demo at the end and kind of making some of these concepts come alive. Let me get started kind of with what it isn't. I mean, when you see AI Ops, the initial gut is to say, oh, that AI stands for artificial intelligence. Unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, it's just that's not what it actually stands for, right? So it actually stands for algorithmic IT operations. I think the creators of the term, Gartner, are okay with this confusion. AI is definitely a hot topic, but it's not the same thing. At the same time, there really are parts of AI Ops that start bleeding into artificial intelligence concepts, mainly in the machine learning space, but really what they're defining as something a little bit different. So let's talk about what it is and the definition directly from Gartner. So AIOps stands for Algorithmic IT Operations. It was coined by Gartner Research in recent papers, originally by Colin Fletcher. It's been adopted by the industry as sort of a category definition and co-opted by other analysts. So AIOps platforms really represent the evolving and expanded use of technologies previously categorized as ITOA or IT Operations Analytics. Really, when we talk about AIOps, we're talking about a category of software, a way to group things, a way to look at similar pieces of software, similar capabilities from a comparison perspective. The category usually includes things like vendor agnostic data ingestion, the ability to take things from multiple sources, data storage or big data storage, an analytical engine, typically a machine learning concept, and also visualization. So there's some definitions around how those should work from Gartner, but at a high level, it's a category with those individual pieces. So here's how Evanios architecture aligns with that category. Starting at the top, we have the system of record and the visualization. It's a big belief from Evanios, and part of our core tenet of our design is that your system of record, sort of where you do ITSM, where you keep your system of engagement, really needs to be inseparable from your ITOM or IT operations world. So AIOps is the same concept, and Gartner even writes a little bit about how the interaction needs to happen. We believe that needs to be incredibly seamless. If you currently use ServiceNow, for example, our application is focused on ServiceNow. So the idea here is your visualization would be presented right next to your ITSM data directly within your system of record. You also have the opportunity to exchange data, and I'll talk about that in a bit as far as with the system of record to get some of that change data or impact data out of your system of record. Automation. So we have the ability to trigger multiple types of automation as a response to events or insights, either through the automation framework of your choice, such as a ServiceNow orchestration or IBM Dynamic Ops, or we can do things like automatically trigger incidents, auto close, auto resolve things using internal systems. The next part, and the really exciting, the big part of it that you hear a lot about is machine learning algorithms. So our algorithms are based on a sort of a reflection of our experience. We have unique algorithms to score events, which means to identify the event's true priority, as well as predict events, providing proactive notifications for critical events where possible. These algorithms can be extended by the client to meet your unique requirements, or the machine learning can actually expand the algorithms itself. So a lot of capability as far as machine learning, and it's all built on top of the system of record and integrated in with the other core components. So data storage is a critical part of an AIOps system. We have big data backend that allows us to store large history as far as metric data and prediction data. We have a robust integration API. So this is really important to us as we're building. We have a very open API to tie in any monitoring system or any system that generates data, as well as we have packaged out of the box integrations. We have about 40 or more today to popular monitoring solutions. We make it very easy to get sort of acceleration into the platform. And the last part is we also have monitoring built directly into the platform as well. So while we could also tie in directly to your monitoring ecosystem that already exists, we don't want you to go backwards as far as maturity. We can tie into what you have. We also can augment what maybe you don't have or fill in some gaps, or the ability to even ingest metrics from other monitoring systems to pull metric data and event data into the same system to start making conclusions and insights. So at a high level, this is kind of our alignment with the AIOps category, right? These are the core pieces that Gartner says, AIOps system needs to have, our platform needs to have, and this is how we address it. By now, you're probably asking yourself, great, another marketing term from Gartner. My CTO is probably going to ask me about this. How does it actually affect my life? Why should I care about this? My job's already pretty difficult, right? So I'm going to go through a couple different reasons why I think AIOps is important to you. I think the first reason is you need it. Things are more complex than ever before. If you think about the evolution of IT, virtualization, SaaS, cloud, elastic, IoT, I mean, you name it, right? There's a massive amount of data being generated from all these new technologies, leading to an exponential number of events, alerts, and metrics to process. And at the same time, user expectations for availability and performance couldn't be any higher. It was sort of the consumerization of IT. Our users use Google, they see that's up 24/7. They expect their internal services to have the same quality of service, right? Our take on it is, the old tools and approaches aren't up to the challenge of managing this new world. So I think from an AIOps perspective, this is something you definitely need to look at, because I think it's something we need as an industry. Number two, Chuck Norris says there's real tangible benefit. And if you guys know Chuck, he knows his stuff, right? So, per Gartner, one tangible benefit is making the holy grail of a single pane of glass a reality across multiple technology stacks. I thought it was interesting that Gartner called single pane of glass a holy grail. But I mean, it is difficult to get into place in a lot of environments, but that's a key value for AIOps. Secondly, we talked about all the data coming out of the modern IT organization. You need to drastically reduce the alert noise coming out of that. You need a way to deal with that glut of alerts and data coming out. So you're going to need beyond manual methods to do that. You're going to need more automation, more machine learning to help you. And you're going to need more tools to help you understand where your team should be focusing. Another tangible benefit really is faster diagnosis and response. So Forrester talks a lot about mean time to know as the longest poll in MTTR. I kind of love that term. I feel like it makes a whole lot of sense. It's just sort of an easy way to represent that chaos when you're trying to figure out what actually is the issue. If I'm going to put labor on this to fix it, if I'm going to go call somebody who's my genius guy, who's on vacation, which guy do I call? It's not reasonable to call everybody. So the idea of what's the actual issue, who should I call to get this thing fixed, right? So that mean time to know is really where AIOps is squarely focused on making that easier and faster. So there's definitely real tangible benefit behind AIOps and the methodologies behind it. And lastly, it's getting some trends in the industry, right? I mean, it's definitely making waves. All the cool kids are doing it. So Gartner's estimate is 25% of global enterprises will have some sort of strategy around AIOps and be implementing that in some fashion by 2019. And by 2020, they estimate that at 50%. So I don't know if those numbers make sense, but the good news is likely you already have a head start. You're probably already doing parts of AIOps like monitoring or event management, but maybe you're not connecting all the dots in an AIOps context. You're not actually using machine learning, you're actually putting the pieces together. So that's where AIOps really comes in, and some of the newer technologies help you do that. All right, so we talked about sort of why you should care. Now let's talk about what maybe some of the challenges might be around adoption. And it's always kind of interesting to put up here like how you can fail. The idea is we need to get ahead of these, mitigate these issues. And I'm going to go through a couple of the issues that we've seen, but at the same time, there's not an exhaustive list. There are many ways to be challenged with this within our large organizations, which are complex. But at the same time, I think these are things you definitely need to keep an eye on. The first thing is poor integration. That's one of your biggest challenges. So the phrase garbage in, garbage out works pretty well. If we have bad data coming in, it's hard to produce any reasonable insights out of it. But I mean, it also makes sense for, if you get nothing in, you get nothing out. So if at the end of the day, you're not tying into critical systems that you actually need that data from, you don't have a complete picture, there's no possible way that on the top end, the analytics can make sense for you or get the value you're expecting out of it. So I think that integration level is absolutely key. I put up here, you need good data, lots of it. So it's also important that when you get that data in, that you normalize the data and it's at a quality level where it's usable. The next piece, misaligned expectations. So this actually came from Gartner, which I thought was great. They listed as the number one reason number one AIOps implementation challenge was separating the marketing jargon from actual capability, which I thought was kind of interesting. As a consumer, it's important for you to actually do your homework, right? You need to test your vendors. The good news is this is done fairly easily. It's not like the old days where we have to go allocate 20K worth of hardware and get it all racked and stacked and then get a consultant out to install the software and all those pieces. Most of these components, like Evanios for sure, has a cloud side of it. So you can actually be up in a few hours. The reality is most all these AIOps platforms have some sort of SaaS component. So you should be able to try this out and check it out within a day. I would say if you can't get it done within a day, maybe you should look at another product. And maybe it's a little more complex than needed. Probably not something kosher. So I would say we welcome the challenge at Evanios for you to test us. All the other vendors should expect to be tested as well. Last part here, misplaced fear. The idea that maybe an AIOps solution will eliminate my job, or maybe the last tool that we bought that made these kinds of promises didn't work very well, or just general reluctance to change. And these are the kind of things you always hit with specific types of projects, right? The job one's actually kind of interesting. We've done a lot of research on our side about that. Our take on it is that as AIOps solutions and more automation comes into the IT operations center, really the operator's job will become more cognitively demanding. So AIOps is a power tool they'll be using and actually raising their value to the organization. So the idea is, instead of maybe doing simple manual labor, they're actually stepping up and having to do more, doing more troubleshooting and tying together multiple correlated impact or insights. I think it's actually a great thing for labor. There's an awesome TED Talk on a similar subject by David Autor called "Why Are There Still So Many Jobs?" And he's basically talking about the impact of automatic tellers on the banking industry and how there's still plenty of banking employees, and there's so many more than there is now after the implementation of the automatic teller. It talks about what those people do and how the jobs change. I think it's a good analogy for how we work in IT. As far as the other ones, previous products not performing, or this would never work here. I mean, a POC demonstration, talking to reference customers, analysts. I mean, the only thing I advise there is, put your stakeholders, put those fearful people in the boat with you really early, so they're involved in those alignment. They can actually see and test what they're going to get. And I think that helps everybody get on the same page, set reasonable expectations for these types of projects. I'm a big believer in momentum. So, I'm always a big believer, start with a small project and have success with that, and then move to the next one, move to the next one, move to the next one. So get them on board for that first project where they say, yep, this works great, it can't possibly fail. Do that, and then go to the next level. All right, so talk a little bit about how Evanios accelerates AIOps implementation. So specifically about us, what maybe we do different, how we see things. AIOps is built on the familiar. So you got integrations, monitoring, deduplication, correlation. That's been around for a long time. And in order to get that higher level functionality, you have to make sure that you have those basics right, that you architect well from the bottom up. So some of the ways that our platform helps you do that, I mentioned easy integration just about any tool you can think of, metric and event ingestion capability, robust normalization to a common event format, and we still retain the raw data for a drill down, mature deduplication and event correlation. We have some great scoring and unique scoring technology that is really interesting. It's a sort of a way to present insights in a very simple way. And then also we have a very tight integration with the system of records. So it allows sort of AIOps and ITSM to be inseparable and work interchangeably. We have a lot of ways we can help you do that. And all of this really helps you create a single pane of glass, which Gartner referred to as a holy grail, very quickly. And at that point, it becomes very easy to layer on our analytics and create meaningful correlation insights like root cause analysis, impact analysis, and predictive. At this point, that's kind of it for me as far as just kind of laying the context of Evanios, what we do, how we accelerate AIOps. I'm going to turn it over to Todd to show you some of this in a quick demo.
All right. So Andy mentioned our robust integrations. This is just a list of our package integrations. We have integrations for all of the major monitoring tools, whether they're on-premise, they're cloud-based, doesn't really matter. We have open APIs for any custom monitoring tools. These are our package ones. These are downloadable, configurable. This would fit into any POC, very easily installed and configured. This is ServiceNow. This is our demonstration ServiceNow instance. This is our application in a dashboard view on the ServiceNow platform. So our application is installed and lives inside of ServiceNow. And this dashboard is trying to show lots of different data from lots of different sources. Some of them are us, and some of them are ServiceNow directly. The news widget, for example, is a standard ServiceNow offering. This prediction view in the upper left is our prediction of events. I have application or events by application and events by host. We also are pulling in raw monitoring data that these two graphs represent. And I also have a list of problems and a list of incidents from the problem management system and the incident management system. And I can bring all this together in one dashboard because we live inside of ServiceNow. So I have access to the CMDB, I have the ability to create incidents, I have access to the change management system to potentially look for blackouts. Those are all just features and functionality that are available to us because we live inside of ServiceNow. And that's kind of Event Management 101. So for the remainder of the time, I want to kind of show some of those higher end features that Andy talked about in our application. We monitor Windows, Linux, Oracle, SQL, and we pull all that through an agentless solution. Because we live inside of ServiceNow, we look like everything else in ServiceNow, where this is just a table of records. We've put a very fancy GUI in front of it to make sure that it's real time, and we've added a lot of features to this. And these are events that I've received from all of my different monitoring tools. And I have all of these different tools integrated in my environment. You can see that we have criticality, repeated events, the severity is all color-coded. Well, the first thing I want to talk about is the analysis scoring. So this column here is showing the analysis score, and that's a key differentiator for us and something that our customers use on a regular basis to drive their operations. The higher the analysis score, the more relevant the event should be. And while we were doing this analysis behind the scenes, we make it transparent and configurable. So we make it transparent in that all of the traits that we use for the analysis are in a table, and you can see the records, adjust the records, turn different traits on or off, or add new traits based on your use cases. The other place where we're transparent is in what traits were attached to this event. So these 3 traits matched. The description is very English readable. Multiple business services affected. How many? 51. Causes an incident to be created 75% of the time. Okay, that sounds relevant, and it's a critical event. And here's the score adjustment for each of these matching traits. And we have 20 out-of-the-box traits that we provide to you, and only 3 of them were applicable in this case. So this gives us a score of 380. The overall score was 1,030, so there must be something else going on. So that's just right at your fingertips as well. Predictive analysis. So our prediction engine is very easy to explain, and while it is dependent on machine learning, it's not voodoo, it's not magic. I can explain it to you in a few sentences and you'll understand the concept. So this is a good example. I have my event. I got the SCOM event. This information up on top is our common event format. Here's the SCOM details available to me as well. But back to the prediction. How we predicted this event is we have a data store of events, signatures. So we take a signature of every event we received and we build relationships between those events based on time. So if we see an event happen and we see another event happen after it, we'll link those together. And as we see those linkages happen more often, the probability will go up. And when the probability gets high enough, we know that those 2 events are related. So in this case, replication fails, and when replication fails, the SQL database has an issue. And we've seen this happen X number of times in the past. We've seen this happen 12 times in the past. So we have causation to know that this has happened in the past with regularity, so we can predict it as going to happen in the future. So while we got the replication issue, we're going to get the SQL database issue. And we have a visualization for that in our forecast view. So these are all the events that we've predicted. There's a grid of time versus probability. And if you click on any particular dot, you'll see the leading indicator, which is an actual event that we received. And then you'll see the predicted event that we think is going to happen because we've seen it in the past. There's some kind of relationship in our database. You can see those relationships with this interactive view. So this is just a view of those relationships. And while we're predicting events that are going to happen in the future, we also can show you real-time events in your environment that are potentially root cause analysis. So cause events and effect events, and graphically display these using the same information. The same signatures that we store in our database will drive this particular view as well. So I have a few more things to show, and then we'll open it up for questions. Because we have access to the CMDB, a lot of our customers do service mapping. So these are business services that are defined in my CMDB. Most of these are just canned out of the box, but we can represent these and attach them to events and show where there's potential issues. So in this example, I have 82 total business services, but 21 of them have a critical event attached to it. And we actually do business service mapping. We draw the business services based on information in the CMDB, and we do this all on our own. ServiceNow has their own maps, but we didn't want to be dependent on that, so we built this technology to draw the maps again, and therefore we can color code them based on the severity of events that are attached to specific CIs. So that explains a couple things that we attach CIs to events, and also we can represent these business maps and show the criticality of the events that we've received. So this is a real-time picture of what's going on with this particular business service. So solid red boxes have critical events attached to them. Things with red outlines is perceived degradation. We know something downstream is having a problem, so we perceive that that's having an issue. And the final piece is to go back to our all active events console and show, in our world, correlated events. If you can get to this level of maturity, you're really doing things right. Correlation requires lots of data, as Andy mentioned, and it takes and needs events from lots of different tools. So most of our customers have 5 or more monitoring tools, and one of them is monitoring their network, and another one is monitoring their servers. Well, if you have a network outage of any sort, it's going to look like all of your servers have gone down. If you can take those 2 disparate events and correlate them so that you have a single event, that's the holy grail, as Andy mentioned, where we have a single pane of glass that's receiving events from multiple different tools, and then being able to correlate them with our correlation engine to link them together, attach them all to the same incident, and treat them as one entity, one parent-child relationship. And it doesn't have to be one-to-one. This particular parent has 5 children. And this is our correlation view component of our console. And that concludes the demonstration.
So I love action items. So here's what I'd recommend for you as the attendee, what your action items are. I would say, number 1, develop a strategy around AIOps. You need to figure out, is this something you can get value out of it? Is this something you need? Happy to help you with that. There's consultants who can help you with that. There's analysts who can help you with that as far as a strategy. But at a high level, you need to look at it. And in general, if you're a medium or large size organization, I don't feel that you can afford not to have some sort of strategy around AIOps. Then the next part is, you survey your current tool set capabilities, identify gaps, right? So can you get there from here using your current tooling? If you can, great. Make sure that you're charting the project and the appropriate people to get there. If you can't, like we mentioned before, start engaging some vendors for proof of concept to see what they can do or how they can do it. Also, you may want to look at it as, if you have current tooling in-house, can you cost effectively get where you want to be? Do you want to put a lot of money into an older system that maybe hasn't performed for you in the past, or do you want to look at something new and transfer over now before you start investing in it too? And then number 3, get started. I love the quote, version 1 is better than version none. I love momentum. If you guys can chart a small project that says, for this application, we're going to focus on prediction, or for this particular business service, we're going to focus on correlation, and this is the value we think we need, or this is the use case we think we need, that goes well, right? And then you can take that momentum, present it to executives, and drive to the next level, the next level, the next level. I think that's really the way to run projects in 2017. So I recommend starting small and getting started sooner. So I guess, Kai, you can go ahead and go, and we got some questions. So if you want to take over on the Q&A.
Yeah, we do. Andy, the first one is AIOps a rip and replace strategy?
So the answer is definitely no. If you already have monitoring tools you like, you should be able to leverage those. One of the key components of AIOps platform, even as defined by Gartner, is a vendor agnostic data ingestion. So if you're dealing with a vendor who's flying the AIOps flag and is telling you you need to rip everything out and replace it with your tool, they've missed something. I think I would question anyone who asks you to go backwards in maturity in order to go forward. So I think, don't get me wrong, you just need to make sure that has sound financial and business justification. But short answer is no, it's not a rip and replace strategy. It needs to augment the maturity you already have.
This one's actually similar, Andy. So this is specific for Evanios, and this is about integrating with homegrown monitoring tools. We hear that quite a bit.
Yeah, sure. So we do that all the time. Homegrown monitoring tools, one-off monitoring tools, industry-specific monitoring tools, custom-built applications. So we have a very robust API that could tie into any data source. And really, the history of that API is, doing consulting as a team over the years around event management, event correlation, and monitoring. We basically took every API we had ever seen to integrate a monitoring tool into an event tool or data aggregation tool, and we made that API, right? So we have everything from SNMP, TCP, UDP, log file, Windows event log, REST, SOAP, you name it. If you can get the tool to expose its data in some way, we can definitely collect it, and that's the API that we've built our package integrations on top of. So those same power tools that allow us to build integrations very rapidly, those are available to you and to our consulting team to work with.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to fit one more in because I think that this applies to basically everybody, at least based on my own experience. So this person wrote in, asking how useful AIOps or even analytics would be if you don't have a mature CMDB.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting thing, right? I mean, realistically, there are plenty of Fortune 500 companies that operate really highly available environments without a CMDB. I know that sounds bad to say that, but the reality of it is it's just another area that you need to work on maturity. And it's very helpful to have a CMDB. It's very helpful to have a quality CMDB, and it's definitely something you want to strive for. But I don't believe it's something that you want to stop all other forward momentum to get. You know, it's not sort of do the CMDB first and then, you know, let's do everything else after that. After we're done with that, after that's perfect, we'll move on. Really, what you want to approach is either going application by application or going in parallel efforts, right? So how can we kind of move all the bars up at once? Move the CMDB maturity up, move the event management maturity up, move the analytics maturity up, all in at one time. Because if not, I think you're going to be caught in a sort of a chicken and egg thing if you're just constantly waiting for the CMDB.
Fantastic, thank you.